I've decided to do more videos in this reading behind the news kind of mentality, where I take different things that are coming out in science and all these other different things, history, archaeology, that I'm seeing on the news, on Drudge, on various sites that I explore, and they talk about different things that I feel are relevant to our community and the thoughts that we all think. And this one has to do with Greenland, especially in the northern peninsula. And this is a Mercator map of Greenland, which I find very interesting because there's something at that cluster right there. It looks kind of like that shiprock, the trails that were coming out of there. It looks also like a giant starfish. It looks kind of also like it could be a city walls, some kind of thing. But whatever's under that ice in the middle that they do not show us, you just see total white on Google Earth, is probably something mysterious. Now, we see these maps where all the towns and all the different areas, all the coastlines, everything has a name. It's all been named, it's all been visited, it's all been mapped, very detailed. Like these have got all the different crevices. It's almost a replica of Google Earth, except for the changes that have occurred. But these people had clear, amazing views of all this stuff. They had an incredible knowledge of this land several hundred years ago, about 400 years ago. So now this article that I'm going to show you, after we look at this is the rivers underneath, which also, a lot of rivers we think are canals that were once populated of cities. If you look at that, remember that other one of Mercator? It looked like a giant city. There's water always to travel all around it. Those are kind of like the ancient roads that lie under the white, which we don't see. So is there land there? Probably. And this is the article I'm talking about from The Guardian. DNA from 2 million years ago reveals lost Arctic world. Wow. So these people that follow this nonsense are getting a little bit closer, but actually getting further away because they tacked on another million years. So they said breakthrough pushes DNA record to 1 million years further when it was 11 to 19 degrees Celsius warmer up there, so it was tropical. And they even mentioned the insufficiencies of dealing with DNA over time because it degrades so quickly. Yet they can tell because this DNA has been around for 2 million years. Northern Greenland revealed a region once home to mastodons, lemmings, and all these things that are extinct, that they found a long time ago, that are probably still alive beyond the poles, that they are convincing everyone are 2 million years. They just added on 1 million years to this ancient DNA. And they talk about being carnivores. They put all their stuff in there. Oh, the sediment, the ancient DNA was found in the Kappenheim Formation, a sediment deposit 100 meters thick that built up over 20,000 years. Like, they know all the dates of all these things. It's really astounding. Yet, there's also the reality that this stuff could have been blown up in a war 1,000 years ago, 2,000 years ago, 3,000 years ago. There could have been civilizations here 1,000 years ago, 500 years ago, 800 years ago, millions of years ago, 2 million years. That's how they lead the people to thinking that, because they use these giant numbers in science, in astronomy, in everything, because they want to make people be like, wow, this is beyond me. I can't figure out this stuff. This is totally for science. Yet when you look into the carbon dating process, it seems like an absolute complete scam where people have to, you can check me on this, but the sources I've seen say that in order to do a carbon scan, you have to release like a report on where you think everything comes from and tell details and tell factual things. And then they pretty much just end up agreeing with you in the end after you pay them a bunch of money. But look at some of these tracks, some of these remains here of Greenland. These are some videos, some Google Earth videos I took a while ago, but still always relevant. Like, you can see so many different things here. This place just looks like a dried up, a shriveled up mess of something that once was. And you look at all those maps, remember all these coastal places had names. So like, why, like, they just went around naming all these things, but look at these circles, these mounds. Those could be temples, those could be buildings. Everything leads to the fact that yes, this place was heavily populated with people, with animals, with life at one point. But was it 2 million years ago? Absolutely not. There's a 100% chance, absolutely not. Maybe there was something happening about 2 million years ago, but Is that the earliest it's been since then? We haven't seen anything since 2 million years? That I find incredibly hard to believe. The amount of change that can happen in millions of years is astounding. Think of how the human population changed in the last 200 years. We went from a very low industrial kind of world to what we have now. It's absolutely massive. That's 200 years. Are we to believe that growth never occurred anywhere else? I don't believe it. And I believe that there were more suns, or more a distant sun, or something that was up here, some other way to power these things. What if the sun is an ancient technology and they had more of them? Maybe that was a way to beat a war. Maybe in order to win some kind of war in these ancient and beyond the pole states, taking down a sun would be the ultimate kind of way to freeze and kill a people. And has that happened? I don't know. I'm just theorizing and shooting stuff out there. But look at all this land, all these things. There is probably so much here. If you were to be able to take like a scraper or a digger or the LiDAR or some kind of technology, I bet you'd find so much stuff here. And simply the fact that the entire white part of middle of Greenland is entirely covered with just white Google Earth, the computer-generated imagery, that is another sign as well. And if you recall, at the beginning of Trump's presidency, he joked about having Greenland about buying Greenland and turning it into a tourist spot. So what was he trying to hint at there? Is there a lot more that we are not seeing? Is a lot of that white covering up other things? Have they replaced things? Have they just, they can create geography with a fractal program. So, I haven't flown over this, so I don't know if any of this exists. We have to take everything in that kind of way, in a defensive way, because we don't know what they feed us, and you can't ever really take seriously what they feed us. But especially when the name Google is attached to it. But either way, interesting patterns, different reveals, and they're hiding stuff, but they still can't hide it all. And that is another point that is nice, because there is so much, and we need to be able to do discovery from this place, from our seats, because we can't really none of us have the money to be able to do any of these exploratory techniques, and we don't have the military means of escaping the other militaries from other countries. So they're hiding something. Whether they're preparing it for us like a giant World's Fair, that could be the case as well. Maybe they're going to one day open it up and be like, then there'll be tourism will flood to this area, and we'll see that area kind of repopulate the way America did, a completely destroyed place at one point that just now is what it is. After 300 years or 400 or 500 years, it's now what it is. And but before, we have different visions of what it was, and I think it's way superior, way more buildings all over the West, all over Florida, all over everywhere, all over the mountain chains, all over the plains, everywhere. There was stuff at one point, I believe, and everything was interconnected, everyone was in communication, and there was no way that was 2 million years ago. So again, the mainstream just kind of closes in. They give us a little bit of stuff. Oh, some DNA was found up here. There was life. This place was once tropical. Yes, guaranteed. But they add a 2 million year distance to it so that nobody connects it with now or with anything like us. Or look at that part. That looks like a giant shell or a giant fan or a giant like a explosion went off, giant wave hit. Something happened to this area and we have no idea. But again, not 2 million years. No way. Anytime you see the million number, they are wrong. And especially with the cult of science. They just want you to think that we don't have any connection to this stuff, or there's nothing beyond the poles. But there is. There definitely is. Don't ever be fooled of that. It is coming. They will unveil it all soon enough. I know it. Or someone will force them to. Some evidence will force them to. Who knows where it will come from, but it's coming. Bless you all.